So I'll ask the question right out of the gate. Which one do you prefer?
Oh, I mean, it's this one.
It's got to be this one, right?
This one, in my opinion, for what it is, may be perfect.
Interesting. See, I think
while
I agree, I think this one is better than the first one. It is close to perfect for exactly what you said. For an action movie, for what it is very, very close to perfect. But there's actually no but. This movie's just great.
It really is. You know what's funny is the first time I saw this as a kid, and thinking about like how big of a this was huge. This was a big budget action movie. And now I watch it, and I guess because of all the Avengers movies and James Cameron's Avatar and all that other stuff, you sit there and go, "Oh, this isn't quite as big as I remember it."
But it's
fantastic. It's a great action movie.
Good. And it honestly, I was thinking about it on the way over here. It has the same quality that the first one does, which is there's not wasted time.
Mm-mm.
And Cameron,
there's so many iconic moments in this movie.
Well, see, that's what we were discussing last night when we were watching it, which was so funny, was that because you said you hadn't seen it in a little while, and you were like,
it's been at least 3 years.
But you were like, this is what I always think of. But then the next scene would happen, you're like, oh no, actually, I always think of this too. And we realized,
well, it was only just the two back to back. The two that popped in my mind.
The whole time we were like, oh, we kept going. This is a dope scene. Mm-hmm. This is awesome. Like, oh, this is an iconic scene. And then, there's the chase scene, and then there's them breaking out Linda Hamilton in the insane asylum.
Yeah.
Then
those are the two for me. For me, it's the chase scene that starts in the mall, and then it goes down the waterway and all that other runoff, the river, the LA River or whatever. It goes all the way, and then with the semi truck.
With the semi truck. Oh, well, see,
and that's awesome. And then they go to bust out Linda Hamilton.
That's cool.
It's funny because to me the most iconic shots
are in that insane asylum.
Yes, and it's when she's running and she goes and she sees Arnold for the first time, and she's falling back, and she's terrified.
But then there's the scene where Robert Patrick morphs through the bars, and that technology, even though it feels dated, you can tell it was still done well.
Yeah.
You watch it now and you're like, oh, they could probably do it better now, but it's but this came out in 91.
Mm-hmm. Or 92.
I believe it's 91. Really impressive.
Oh, yeah.
For when that came out. And I totally agree. I would argue, yes, the most iconic shots probably do come from the insane asylum breakout. That being said, we also brought up something last night to each other that...
Well, that and when he's holding the bomb.
Everyone out! See, that whole sequence is awesome. Mm-hmm. And it's like we just said, it's just scene after scene. You're like, oh, that's awesome. No, this part's the best. Well, I don't know. It just constantly is actually...
And we don't know because we weren't born...
I think
was
about to bring up
3
the same...
Did you know as the viewer
I was about to bring
who
up the
was
same
good
thing.
And who was bad?
Well, when it starts out, because we were talking about trailers now, you can spend an afternoon on YouTube and just watch new trailers.
Yeah.
And it's because trailers are such a huge thing, but back in the early 90s, I feel like the only trailers you got were teaser trailers where they were 30 seconds long.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes a good point where it's did people know if Arnold was going to be the good guy or the bad guy? Now, I don't know. I wasn't...
Because if that's not the case...
The way they set it up is
you don't know until the mall.
Well, you could argue maybe because Arnold, in the biker scene where he shows up naked, he doesn't kill anyone, but he does hurt someone. Robert Patrick's character does kill that cop.
Yeah.
So it's...
Yeah, but Arnold just destroys a biker bar.
But he doesn't kill anyone.
That you see.
No, the worst thing that happens is that guy that gets burned, and that hurt. Watching it again, it's ooh, that causes a physical reaction for me. Whenever I see someone get burned like that on a stovetop, it hurts. But they set it up so well where you're like, who? Because they make it clear. It's John Connors talking at the beginning, talking about like
we sent one.
They sent one back in 1984, and then they sent one back in '95 to kill me, and if they couldn't kill Linda Hamilton or Sarah Connor, but they don't say like who's who, and while Robert Patrick does kill that cop. The way he's walking around, he's charming. He's charming and jovial, and you're like, maybe he's the good guy. And Arnold just looks like the Terminator from the first one. And that moment where, and I do love the mall sequence where it's honestly, it's very mirrored to how it happens in the insane asylum, where John is running and he sees the Terminator and he turns back, and then basically Terminator's like grabs him and then protects him, and you're like, now when you watch it, you know that Arnold was the good guy.
Yeah.
But I do wonder back then if it was like, oh shit. Yeah. Like Arnold's going to be protecting him. Yeah. Which is such a clever, once again, Cameron being very simple. It's just a simple twist that he adds, but it's so cool. Because that whole first movie, like we discussed, is terrifying. And Arnold is a terrifying
that being said, that movie was only good when Arnold was on the screen being the Terminator. Yeah. So he, like, as a viewer, you kind of were, I don't want to say you were pulling for him, but you wanted him on screen.
That's true.
And they were like, well, how do we have this character that was such this icon? I mean, that was an iconic movie. That was an iconic. And how do we
make it so he's on screen?
How do we make money off of this? Cameron was like,
I got it. There's one thing I know how to speak, it's money.
Yeah.
But it was awesome, because then it was like, oh, so we're going to see this badass be on the good side. And yeah, man, like it is arguably the best action film of all time. Now, when we're talking as far as like you said, like we've become accustomed to these Avengers movies and these big budget action movies that are
or Nolan's movies that are just grand.
They're just so big. And while this does feel rather small, you're right.
It's
comparatively speaking.
Yeah, it's funny because Cameron's part of that.
Cameron brought forth like, no, we're going to dump so much money into these movies and we're going to make it huge and big and people are going to lose their minds. And he's just always done that.
Yeah.
I mean, he did Terminator, then he did Aliens, then he did The Abyss, and then he did this, and then he did True Lies. The smallest movie he did was True Lies, which is insane, because True Lies still had...
When was the last time you watched True Lies? True Lies, there's some action sequences in True Lies that are huge.
Would you argue that True Lies is bigger than Aliens?
No, I'd argue Abyss and Terminator are the two smallest ones.
Okay. Abyss is more science fiction.
And the only reason it's smaller is because they're
underwater. Yeah.
And they're in the ship.
It's a little more contained.
Yeah.
And
Aliens is big.
Yes. And that's my point. He's always been like, I'm going to invest so much money in this movie and it's hopefully going to pan out. But this is, story-wise, I'll put it this way, it's a perfect sequel.
Oh, it's great.
You know, like for what he did, what he was able to manage to do coming off the first Terminator, which had its action sequences, but it was much more of a sci-fi kind of horror.
He's the king of sequels, right?
And yeah, basically.
Makes you gotta look forward to Avatar too.
Right? I guess. But so this one,
I mean,
it's a movie that like is just so cool because it keeps expanding on that lore of like the world's. But that being said, it expands on the lore of the whole Terminator, and you for some reason
it ends and you go, why?
Why did they keep making sequels?
Going? This was perfect.
It ended perfect because it was like
if they'd have ended it with that one, it would have gone down as the greatest two movies.
Yeah,
like 1, 2.
It'd be up there for sure.
Yeah.
Well, and you brought up a good point, and this is where we're clearly not smart enough for this, which is the only reason that the robots become so advanced so quickly is because of the technology found in 1984. Mm-hmm. But the only reason that it was found in 84 was because the robots in the future came back. So it's like, it's a chicken and egg scenario. It's like, what? Okay, something happened. They really don't. And Cameron's great at that too. It's like glossing over things where it's like, oh, we're just not going to question it.
Yeah.
You know?
Just accept it.
Because you really have to start thinking about like, well, wait a second. Do they just figure out that technology as time goes on? I guess. But it's...
Who knows? They may delve into it in this new movie, which is supposed to take place after...
That's true. That is very true. But the reason I bring that up is because the Dyson, he mentions he was like, he goes, this was stuff we weren't even thinking about. And this basically this technology fell into our lap and we're like, let's roll with this. And yeah. So that's honestly one minor gripe I have. Is just like they just gloss over that so quickly, and it's kind of begs some questions. But you're right. It's if they had just ended it. Now it's just we live in a time where sequels are king, and it's just they don't know how to come up with new stories, so they just add on and add on. But you're right. It's like why? Why did they make another one? It ended perfect. I mean, you had the thumbs up from Arnold. The good guys won. Everything. It was great. And
of course, Linda Hamilton probably still winds up in a sane asylum.
Yeah, we brought that up too. It's like, oh, she still has to be on the run.
Yeah,
you know, like, she's an escaped insane. She's a wanted. She's a wanted figure, though.
She's a wanted fugitive.
Yeah,
and then her son kind of is too because he's been in on it, and like their lives are forever destroyed for saving the world.
I love in this. It takes place in a world where in 1984, one singular man came into a police station and killed everyone.
And there's 17 people.
17 people, and then was never caught, right? And Linda Hamilton is like, no, that was a guy. Like, obviously, sounds far fetched, but everyone's like, nah.
Think about how we still talk about the Zodiac killer killing 5 people. And
this guy killed 17 people in one sitting and was not killed.
In a police station. Yes. He walked into a police station
with weapons everywhere, and he destroyed. So when Arnold shows back up, they're like, huh, she wasn't lying. It's like, well, yeah, like it's clear. Oh man, we also didn't talk. We haven't talked about the other scene that when I was a child I saw this very young, and the scene that always stuck out to me was when they went to Dyson's house, and it was Edward Furlong throwing him a knife, which I find hilarious that Arnold just knew what the deal was, and that Edward Furlong or John Connor also knew was like Arnold will know, he'll know, which was throws him a knife and he was like show him, and Arnold's just like. And just rip, and that's the scene I remember the most, is the ripping off of the hand and doing that, and it's effective because Dyson knows is it was the hand that was left back, and he sees that hand and he's like, oh my god, that's where it's coming from, and it was an effective way for this guy to immediately buy into everything Sarah Connor and John Connor were about to tell him. What Sarah Connor and the Terminator were about to tell him what the future was going to be like.
Yeah.
And it's, again, very simple way to explain it, but it was just so extreme of like, just show him.
Yeah.
But
a couple of things they used in this one that, like, in the first one, you see him change his voice once in the cop car. Mm-hmm. In this, like, I'm sure that happened and people were like, that's cool. That's pretty cool.
It is cool.
And then it takes place, like, several times throughout this movie.
I think it's 3 times, right? You have Robert Patrick can emulate anyone, which is really cool.
Anyone he comes in contact with.
Robert Patrick crushes in this movie, by the way.
He does a really good job.
And I think it's sad because I think people always look at it because he was in like Wayne's World 2 or Wayne's World 1 and he plays a cop. Like, I think it's something where everyone just looks at him and you're like, oh, you were the bad guy in Terminator 2.
Yeah.
And it sucks because I read trivia where he did intense bouts of cardio and he learned to not breathe through his mouth. He just breathed through his nose. So when he was running, it looked like it was effortless, and it's effective because when you see him running supposedly 30, 40 miles an hour, and it looks like it's nothing, it is effective. But the other thing that's the scene I also always remember from my childhood, which was
when he kills the. I remember
he goes, "What's your dog's name?" He's like, "Max." He's like, "What's wrong with Wolfie?"
Yeah,
and she's like, "Wolfie's fine." And right there, you're like, boom.
And then you see What you don't see, you just hear it. You hear the dad talking.
Well, you see her.
You see her stick out her arm, and then they hang up the phone, and the camera shifts, and she's killed him by just sticking out her finger, and it's like turned into like a blade, and it's gone right through him, and it's through the.
Which he was hanging on that milk carton for a while.
Yeah.
Which I don't believe. That thing would have dropped immediately. But he was just like, and it conveniently was when the camera panned over, he was like, he just died. This is another movie where it's like, I've seen it enough that whenever it's on, I'm like, oh, Terminator 2. It's surprisingly a comforting, like, ooh, I like this movie. This is good. I'm going to have to give it an A.
It is an A. It's not quite.
It's not like an A+ for me.
It's still got some of its corny Cameron
lines. Oh, and also Edward Furlong.
The acting's not great.
Edward Furlong and Linda Hamilton, I just don't think are great actors and actresses. I think her character, they're iconic. People know what they look like. But it's that cheesy, like, come on, man! Like, it's that total Bill Paxton game over acting. It's not great. But it is like you can watch it and enjoy it for what it is. And that's what this movie is that for what this movie is, it is close to perfect, if not perfect.
Yeah.
But in the overall grand scheme of things, I give it just an A.
Just an A.
Just an A. It's just one of the top grades. So.
Yeah.
So, would you agree?
It's an A. It's an A. It's not quite like. Only to me, like we've talked about this, there's
very few perfect movies,
and that's that A+ range. This is,
it's just an A,
just an A.
Yeah,
it's great.
It's great. Oh
it's
yeah,
great.
But that was our take on Terminator 2: Judgment Day. T2. God, what a movie! I still keep thinking about it. It's like God. We're seeing Terminator: Dark Fate in about I don't know, like an hour. So catch us next time with our review of Terminator Dark Fate, and we'll catch you later.